If you're using a stunner that's rated to 4.5 grain green and you're doing, like I say, young calves with this, yes, the animal will be stunned, but all that excess energy will then be absorbed by the stunner itself.
Welcome to MeatsPad, a platform dedicated to sharing breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the meats industry. On each episode, we will hear from meat specialists and professionals to talk about numerous topics in meat science. This podcast is brought to you by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, Ultrasource, the new standard for innovation,
Viscofan collagen casings, the best alternative to animal gut casings for a better taste and sustainable sausage making.
IFA, slaughter and meat processing tools.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. My name is Vince Gunahara. I'm your host today. We're honored to have on the episode for today James Biondic, Vice President of Accles Shelvoke in the UK. Welcome, James.
Thank you very much.
So there's a lot of information, a lot of data that you showed us today. And I think I really wanted to sit down with you and visit more in depth about stunning. Some of the how to make, how to do an efficient stunning and some of the things that you have to consider. And for our listenership, small and mid-sized meat processors that want to learn more about stunning. And I think there's a lot of information. I know you've never been on a podcast, so... But you know a lot, so I want to pick your brain today. First, tell me a little bit some of the things that you recommend when someone gets your phone or a call to you. Hey, I have cattle, I have pigs, and they don't know what stunner to select. I guess we can start from there in the beginning. So first, just to set the stage.
So I think in reality, if a customer wants to buy an Accles Shelvoke cash stunner, you find out whether they have a previous preference. So we do cylindrical and inline stunners, and we also do pistol configurations. Sometimes with space constraints, if the kill box is tight, they might not be able to get a Magnum in, so we would recommend a pistol-shaped stunner. But in reality, the main two ranges that we offer, they all produce the same results. But as far as the cartridge selection and the range of cartridges that stunner will take, and each stunner is rated to a particular cartridge strength. So obviously, what that end user is intending to stun on a regular day-to-day basis, and then we'd also consider if they do an unusually large stock as well. So that can also be built into the recommendation as a consideration also. So it really is what they're going to be stunning, how big, and is there a personal preference? Is there any type of restriction that will govern the design that they opt for?
I know you were saying earlier that it's so important to have the right cartridge, the right grain, and if we don't follow the requirements that we can find, we're going to touch here in a minute about your website. It's so user-friendly for some folks that want to learn more about which one to select, which one to choose. But you mentioned something about if you don't use the right grain, the stunning lifespan or the lifespan of the stunner gets drastically decreased. So can you please tell us what your thoughts are on this? Because we may be doing something wrong.
So in reality, as good and as high quality and well built as our product is, the fact of the matter is you can overstun a captive bolt stunner. So when recommending a cartridge strength for a particular size animal, the thing to consider is that the stunner is relying on having a certain mass, i.e. the animal's head when the bolt goes into. So if you're using the most powerful cartridge that we offer on, let's say, a calf, obviously the animal will be stunned.
Can you give us an example, like an stunner and some like 22 or 25 caliber? Just
25 caliber I think this is the most popular one in the US, is 25. So if you're using a stunner that's rated to 4.5 grain green and you're doing, like I say, young calves with this, yes, the animal will be stunned, but all that excess energy will then be absorbed by the stunner itself. So if there isn't the mass there to actually absorb the energy from the bolt, the bolt basically will over travel, and then that energy is transferred back into the stunner. This basically translates to that you will get reduced lifespan of parts, and ultimately it will reduce the lifespan of your stunner.
I like that you mentioned this, because now we can touch on some of the questions that you get on a daily basis. What is the lifespan or the maintenance kit? How many times can I use the stunner before I change some of the components?
So again, if you go to our website, it's very comprehensive. We have lifespan expectancies of said parts by stunner and by cartridge grain. So for example, main components, your breeches and your barrels, 50 to 60,000 shots. We have bolts at 20,000 shots. Now these are recommended and generally far exceed. But we like to err on the side of caution. And then obviously the scenarios and environments aren't always as recommended by the manufacturer. So again, by using too powerful a cartridge for too small an animal, it does reduce the lifespan of these parts. So, like I said, bolts 20,000, recuperator sleeves 2,000 to 4,000 shots. But like I say, it's all on our website to be seen. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll put a link on this video. Sure. For those folk listening, will be a link that will direct them to your website, so you can look at that specification. I like it a lot, because you have for species, and then within the species you have weight, and that's important. And you're mentioning just use the right stunner with the right grain depending on where you're slaughtering. So, sure, absolutely. The other question I had, and it's something I guess I didn't tell you, but now that I'm remembering, I had a customer doing sheep in Mexico, but he had some issues because he may have a 6-month sheep and sometimes 1.5 year sheep. So it's the sizes get bigger. So what would be some of the things to consider when you have small sheep and then sometimes you get a big one? So how can you combine, or some of your thoughts on this, an easy way? I know it's not an easy answer, because it gets tricky when you're trying to say, okay, I have the one stunner, I have one grain, but when it comes to you look at the animals, and I'm telling you about real life examples.
No, absolutely.
Because you're mentioning the lifespan of the stunner.
So speaking, most popular in the UK for sheep and pigs would be the 2.2 cash special, which is the pistol, and the cash special standard, as we call it. So predominantly, sheep farmers will use a purple power load. Given the 6 power loads in the range, the smallest one being brown, the next one up being purple. So I hope that gives some indication of actually sheep require quite a low power load to have to be stunned successfully. But then having the correct power load for the right size animal is on an extreme sort of scale. So if an end user is not completely confident or comfortable with what we make as a recommendation, I would see no harm in just going 1 cartridge strength up to give the confidence, in ensuring there's a successful first time stun ultimately. So again, if you go to our literature, it shows very clearly, although we don't give exact weights, obviously there's natural variation in skull thickness, in hide thickness, but we do offer a breakdown by animal size rather than weight, and we break it down by species as well also. So it's all very user friendly, and it's all very, very practical and easy to interpret.
Since 1883, Ultrasource has been a trusted supplier to the food industry. Ultrasource provides superior kill floor, processing, packaging, and labeling equipment and operational supplies.
I have two more questions for you, and now we were discussing earlier about some of the requirements in other countries, like in the UK, to become a slaughter man. So can you please tell us, just so our listenership that they want to also understand what it's been done in Europe, and I know we're in Germany at the IFA show this year, but maybe in the UK, I know you're telling me about just one opportunity to become a slaughterman.
Yes, so obviously, as you can imagine, I'm with processors quite a lot, and our sales guys are as well. And so conversations I've had previously are You get a 13-week window to train for your slaughter person's license. Within that 13 weeks, you can take your final test at any point. But then I was told that ultimately, if you fail, then you can never become a slaughterman again. Ultimately, you get the one opportunity to become a slaughter person, and if you don't get it right, you're not a slaughter person ultimately. So it's quite strict and it's quite regulated, and lots of legislation in the UK.
Now, please tell me about you, about your background, some of your previous experiences. How do you pick this industry?
How did I pick this industry? So my previous employment, I worked for Caterpillar, close to my hometown. I was there for 10 years.
That's in Birmingham, right?
Yes. And ultimately, unfortunately, the company closed, or that part of Caterpillar closed, and I was left looking for a new job. So 11 years ago, I applied for a position at a company that gave me no detail whatsoever, just the basic requirements. And ultimately, it was Accles Shelvoke, and like I said, I've been there for the last 11 years now. So it was an intentional step into the meat processing industry, I suppose would be the honest thing to say.
So you've been having the opportunity to travel the world, doing some teaching and demonstrations with...
Yes, sure. So myself and my other colleagues, we've travelled all over the world. Obviously, we operate in 60 countries through 50 distributors. We don't get to see them all, but Australia, New Zealand, the US, Japan, South Korea. Obviously, Europe is a large part of our market as well for our products. So yeah, there's been a lot of travel. Yeah.
I want to emphasize truly on how sturdy and how reliable this stunners are. And I don't want to say other brands out there, but what sets Accles and Shelvoke apart from the competition? And I want to talk about parts, because sometimes you can get maybe a less expensive stunner, but if you look at a 2-3 year plan, all the parts and things that you have to have them ready, the components, that sometimes can eat the initial cost of the unit. And this is a conversation they always have.
Yes. So in reality, there's 2 or 3 competitors out there, or other manufacturers. Okay, there's manufacturers that place themselves in a price range and deliver a product that is specifically aimed at that price range. So ultimately, you get what you pay for. That they're not pretending to be anything other than anything more, and they're a good product for where they're priced. You've got other companies that produce stunner ranges that are marketing themselves as high quality, and they aren't. And then you have us, who from 1913 we were the original developers and manufacturers of the captive bolt stunner.
First ones, yes,
absolutely. We're still the market leading of this type of product, and over 100 years of development, a lot of the features and the materials and some of the visuals, there's the elements to the parts that we fitted that ultimately, through the constant evolution, has led us to the point of the product that we have today. So there's elements and aspects to it that end users don't necessarily see, the tool steels, the hardening processes, and just the way the products are arranged. So what makes us the best is our high quality materials and 100 years of expertise, basically. Looking at parts as well also.
And it's a main thing. So I cannot emphasize enough how important that is to have high quality product, because the less parts, the better, right? Because you don't want to be changing parts all the time, and have a high quality components within the unit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and some would say we've got our business model wrong, but ultimately you're buying a premium product, and we're supplying premium spare parts and replaceable parts for that product. obviously being the original sort of manufacturer, and Accles Shelvoke brought this to the market in 1913, it has been a constant development of, I suppose, trial and error in the earlier years, but the development on the materials that we use, the arrangement of the stunners, and the processes that we apply to the components to ensure that we get a long-lasting, reliable stunner. Obviously, that comes at a price, and we are a little more expensive than, let's say, our next closest competitor. But for that little bit more, you get twice the lifespan. We have stunners 5-10 years old. We have stunners from the 1940s that are still being sent back for service and repair. Unfortunately, we can't support them because we don't do the spares or anything else. But it really is a testament to our product's quality. The parts, the spares, the consumables that go in, again, a little more expensive, but I think the message here is for end users to understand its value over cost. So I have a little saying: you get what you pay for. Pay cheap, buy twice, however you want to look at it. So you want to put a part that will fit in hours into the stunner and pay a little bit less. It's a false economy, because in reality you'll be replacing that part 2 or 3 times more than you would using a genuine Accles and Shelvoke part.
I can't remember how many times I heard that in at the IFA show with the Germans. Yeah. Pay cheap, pay twice in German. But so it's a reality. Yes. I would like to just wrap up this episode by asking you and pick your brain on the global animal welfare environment. And we were talking that in the UK, it's very common to see truckers when transportation carrying a stunner in case there's an injured animal, they have to end their life on site. So please tell us about that, because I was not aware of this is actually is it a mandate by the government?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a legislation requirement. So when you see these large lorries with the I know in the UK they've got 2 or 3 decks to the trailers, and they've got animals on all 3 levels or 2 levels. By requirement, they must carry a captive bolt stunner. So if there's an accident or they arrive to the delivery point, there's injured, sick, or lame or fallen animals, they have a legislative requirement to carry a stunner to dispatch with that animal in a humane manner. So that's basically what happens in the UK, and I believe in Europe as well also.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. Thank you for joining us today. We wish you safe travels back home. Thank you a lot.
Great stuff. Thank you for having me.